This is Kenn Nardi, and you're watching Stormbringer, the Austrian heavy zine.
So hi Ken, you just came to the TB2 festival. You've been here before, I guess.
I have. I was here with Anacrusis in 2010 after for a little reunion with the 4 original members. And we did a show in St. Louis, and then this is when the volcano was blowing up in Iceland.
Yeah.
And then we weren't sure, but we made it over. So yeah, we did the one show over here with the original lineup.
And what do you think of the festival in general?
Oh, it's great. I mean, that's the whole thing. We were only going to do the one show, but the fans were so excited, and the show was so great. We ended up, our original guitar player didn't come back, but we came back to the Rock Hard Festival, and then we did Alcatraz in Belgium a couple years after, and then the 70,000 Tons of Metal Cruise, and that was 2013. But yeah, this is amazing. That's why when Oliver asked me to come back again, of course, you know.
Cool lineup, cool bands.
Oh, of course, and the people are awesome. Yeah, everybody just hangs out. Very good environment. So yeah, very cool.
We had an interview last year, not on video, but online, and you told me you don't want to name the band Anacrusis anymore because out of respect to the other members, to the ex-members. But now you are using the name Anacrusis. It's like Kenn Nardi of Anacrusis in the posters.
There's a difference, though. There's a difference, though. I mean, obviously, I am Kenn Nardi of Anacrusis, but yeah, and a lot of promoters wanted me to, you know, for the club shows we did, use the name. But I mean, I'm not Anacrusis. Anacrusis is more obviously than one person, so that's why. But of course. More people know Anacrusis than know me by my name, so that's why. Yeah, that's why. But it's a different thing though than just putting, because some promoters wanted to just put Anacrusis. You know, obviously that's not. I would not do that.
So that's a compromise, like. Okay.
Sure, yeah. And not like I have the right to just do it all on my own anyway. I mean, it's all the guys. It's all of our band. So yeah, but obviously a lot of people don't know my name, so that way they know, oh, at least that's the guy from Anacrusis. So yeah.
Well, now we do know the name now. Maybe you want to introduce the 3 new members of the band with a little short sentence each.
Sure.
Who are they?
Well, my bassist and guitarist. Bassist is Chris Speciale. My other guitar player is Eric Boschert, and the 2 of them used to play in a local St. Louis band together. We called Crude Slit back in the late 80s. We did a lot of shows with them, both in my band before Anacrusis, which was called Heaven's Flame, and then also some of the earliest Anacrusis shows were done with those guys' bands. So I've known them since 1985, and they've been friends over all the years. And then of course on drums I have Chad Smith, who is Anacrusis' drummer for the Manic Impressions album, and also was in Heaven's Flame with me in high school. So kind of like all 3 of these guys I've known for about 30 years now.
Okay, so old friends.
Yeah, old friends. Half of one band, half of the other band. So yeah,
makes it easier to form a band with guys like these.
Yeah,
I guess.
and we've known them over the years. They respect Anacrusis' music and my music as well. Haven't played with Chad since 1980 or 1992, I guess, after we did the Overkill tour and everything. So yeah, so it's good. Have a little bit of Anacrusis blood in there and a little bit of new fresh blood in there. So.
How is the St. Louis scene in general at the moment? Are there many young bands coming?
There are bands, but I'm not really that active in the scene. I mean, not like when I was younger, obviously. I get out every once in a while to see bands. And of course there are. I don't know, the scene was not that good when we were around even, and it seems not any better now or any worse. I can't really tell, but it's not like I get out every weekend like when I was younger. So, but of course there are bands, and what I hear are really a lot of like old school styles coming back into popularity with the young bands, seeming like old, and I'll go see bands and it's almost like not even like in the 90s, more like in the 80s, late 80s, mid 80s, retro kind of stuff, and they're really getting into the classic metal kind of stuff, which is kind of cool.
You can see it here in the festival.
Well,
many young people.
It was almost all death metal, for a long time. That kind of took over, but now I hear more of the more melodic, old school stuff, more solo oriented.
It's fun because there. Which
I think is cool. I prefer it. I prefer the old style.
I was worn out of all the screaming already, so I skipped the death metal a bit. I prefer the melodic stuff as well.
Yeah, I've always been that way.
We both grew up with that, I guess.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and even my favorite bands were like Metal Church and Savatage, and
of course.
All the more melodic stuff. I'm like a song guy, so I like songs and melody and all that. Of course, musicianship's great too, but it got to a point where it was almost all about musicianship, and the songs almost went away completely. It's just monotone, and there's a place for that, but to me it gets old very quickly. I was kind of surprised it sort of seemed to take over almost everything throughout the 90s and early 2000s, but I do hear a little bit more melody coming back in, which is good. But again, it's almost like they're going back to the old original stuff again.
It's fun, and all the young people as well. There are 19-year-old kids in bands who play the same music which was around when I started.
Right, and when we played here in 2010, I met a couple people who had their children with them who were 18 or 19. They were fans of Anacrusis, and then their parents saw us on the Death Tour or whatever, 93 or whatever,
They inherited it from their
parents. You're getting old when you have more than one generation of fans. Right?
when the fans bring their kids.
Maybe the grandchildren will be here this time. I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows? I mean, the Rolling Stones concert, maybe it's already that like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like 4 generations in the audience.
Of course.
You wrote a really big album 1 or 2 years ago. It's called Dancing with the Past, and it was not an Anacrusis album. Of course, it was a Kenn Nardi album, but it contains music for like 3 albums.
Probably.
Are you a guy who just collected all this stuff over the years, or are you constantly writing songs?
Well, it was both. I mean, some of the material was very old, but I think a little bit of, that was overemphasized. That's really not most of the case. Most of the music was new. When we got back together to rehearse for Keep It True in 2010, and then we did the other festivals. So my original drummer from Anacrusis, Mike Owen, and bass player John Emery, we were always rehearsing for the other shows. So Mike and I in particular would just kind of get together and jam sometimes before practice, and I would just come up with a bunch of riffs and all this stuff, and I had recorded everything over the years, started putting together new songs, and so there are 2 or 3 songs that go way back to like right after Anacrusis, and there are a couple songs that go back maybe 10 years ago, but then the majority of the material was actually pretty new, and stuff that I was writing right up until the very end, up until a couple years ago. So it was in some ways, then like A Little Light was on the Cruel April project, and I kind of redid that. So there was a little bit of an overview of the last, 20 years that had been, but most of the material was fairly new, though, and a lot of it was brand new. So, and someone's sneaking up on me.
No, that's not very polite. If I wear glasses and he doesn't.
I get to put mine on then, right?
These aren't even mine, so. We put on glasses in between because the sun is like burning our eyes out.
So thanks. So, but it wasn't like I just took. And I have a lot of stuff I didn't use. It wasn't like I put every single note I could think of on there. But I started working. I wanted to make kind of a big project out of it, and then I just kept writing, and then the floodgates kind of were opening, and I was just feeling very creative at the time, and songs kept coming, and so it got to the point where I knew it would be more than 1 CD, and so I figured I might as well just fill 2 CDs with as much as I could. But I didn't want to put a lot of, some of these albums that are long, they have like these like interludes between the songs, the sound effects, or these like, I mean, it's pretty much song. So it really is 2 CDs full of songs. So that's what it ended up being. And originally I had kind of hoped to do an Anacrusis album out of it with Mike and with John, and I don't really know what happened. We were getting kind of burnt out on playing again, and it wasn't moving very quickly forward, and so I just ended up, in order to get it finished, I just went ahead and recorded the rest of it, the stuff myself.
So are you writing stuff right now after this huge amount of songs?
Not really.
So you haven't wrote a tune since?
No, I haven't written any. I mean, I have some music that I didn't use that I could make some songs out of. I don't really generally sit around and write stuff unless I'm wanting to come up with stuff. So, and I don't really have any plans right now to do anything else, so I don't know. I do have a few songs left over that I had wanted to use, but I didn't have room for them. And also, it just depends on my mood. If I sit down some days with the guitar, I might write 3 songs in one day. Sometimes, maybe nothing for a couple months. A long time ago, I learned to not try to force it, because you really can't.
You're in a good position. You don't have to.
Right.
You can if you want.
And there's so much music there. I think most of the fans will have at least a couple years to get familiar with most of it. So.
This is the one thing. The other thing is that the expectations are rising and rising with each album, of course, because the fans expect the next album to be way better than this, which is not possible anymore because it was such a good album. It's like that.
And I don't really like to repeat myself too much. So I mean, as you can see by the Anacrusis albums, each one was a little bit different than the previous, but there was always sort of a thread that ran through them. But each one kind of went in a little bit different direction. Yeah. And then with my album, I felt like the same thing. It's like a little bit moving into a little wider spectrum of sounds. If I do anything else, I may write some songs, closer to the Cruel April material, maybe just not so much metal, or maybe I'll try something almost all orchestral. I mean, I really don't know. Yeah. If I do something else, I'll probably try to do something a little bit different than Dancing with the Past, because it would be no point to do the same thing again.
And as you did it all on yourself, on your own, you can just sit down and write most of the songs for yourself. You don't need to call a bass player or something.
Right. Yeah. Which is the way it was. It's kind of the way it had been even in Anacrusis to a large degree. I mean, everybody contributed parts, but I would usually be the one that would go to assemble songs out of them. Or often I would write songs, alone and whatnot. So I've always kind of worked on my own in that way. So that's why when I was doing Dancing with the Past, I had been recording guitar parts, vocals, bass parts over a couple of years' time as we rehearsed for festivals and things. And with my intention was to go back and have Mike track the drums and then have John track the bass. But it just wasn't really moving, and I pretty much already had it all recorded, so I just went ahead and finished it myself. Of course, But I don't really do music. I have a regular job. I'm a computer programmer at home, so I do music kind of on the side, and so I can do it at my own leisure, and I don't have to force it, which is nicer.
Which is, in your age, it's better to have a job that brings you daily food on your table.
Yeah, even when I was in my 20s, it would have been nice too.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to crawl out from underneath that. Yeah.
You mentioned the old band members like Mike Owen. Are you still in contact with them, or just lost any connection to them?
No, I still speak with all the guys. Yeah, even Kevin. Kevin and I are our original guitar player. We tended to be the ones that butted heads the most, but no, I see them and speak with them on and off. I've seen them all recently because we have signed contracts with Metal Blade to reissue all of the original albums again. So I visited each of them in the last couple months, just to say hello, have them sign the contracts and stuff. So we're all pretty much on good terms. It's
that's the most important thing.
Yeah. We've been friends a long time, and over the years, sometimes closer, sometimes not so close. But that's with any friends, it's the same way. So,
and as long as they get their share in the albums, they will keep keep being friends.
Their share of nothing, just like my share.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that millions come rushing in from the Anacrusis.
Yeah, money
album.
Was never an issue. There's no fighting over money because there wasn't any.
Your issue was quality, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I think part of the issue is that I tend to be a little bit more of a visionary, I guess, musically. So I tend to kind of see the whole picture with writing, which really wasn't an issue because I don't think anyone else in the band would have called themselves a songwriter, though they all contributed lyrics or pieces of music. And so, there's always sort of an unspoken balance in bands sometimes. It's not like you spell it out and say, okay, you are this much of the band, you are this much. But, the guys were always pretty comfortable letting me sort of steer the ship musically speaking, and then Kevin tended to handle more of the business side, record label side, and then the other guys, we all did our part. Of course, on stage it's all an equal show, everybody does their part. And so but over the years as I've gotten older, I guess I'm just less, it's harder and harder for me to compromise, I guess. I just enjoy doing what I do, and it's just better sometimes that I do it on my own, basically, to be honest. So.
And as long as the output is something like Dancing with the Past, we are all satisfied with that, with you working alone on your own. But we were looking forward for the show tomorrow with the new band. And I hope we will hear some new material in the future as well.
You will. I was going to actually do a little bit more new stuff than old stuff. But in playing the club shows and talking to people, everybody obviously wants to hear a few of those old songs. So it'll probably be close to half and half, but definitely 4 or 5 new songs, and then half a dozen or so of favorite Anacrusis songs as well. So
cool thing.
I didn't want to repeat too much what we did last year, or last time, I mean. But at the same time, they're just songs that people love.
The demand is there.
The whole idea is we have 60 minutes. We might as well make every song count, and every one of them be something that people really want to hear. So this will be the last show, and then back home in a couple days to sleep in my own bed again for the first time in about 3 weeks. So it'll be nice to, this is hard to do when you're 20-something. When you're almost 50, it's very, very difficult. We've been running around in the van for about 2.5 weeks now doing shows, and so getting no sleep, and a couple of us got sick a couple days ago, so it's rough. So I'm hoping to relax and hang out. The people here are always so cool and everything, so relax and hang out today, and then tomorrow get ready and do the show, and then fly home the next day. So,
which will be totally cool, but we don't are supposed to film it. So you have either to come here until tomorrow, or yeah, just miss it.